What's going on YouTube? Big Dog Brett wanted to give y'all the my opinion of the Oklahoma game versus Georgia game coming up on New Year's Day. I've been looking at stats, I've been looking at this, I've been looking at fan boards. I've been looking to see what's really going on with Oklahoma because I haven't watched many of their games until now. I've actually went back and kind of watched the I watched the K-State game, the KU game, the TCU game, first and second one. Watched them play Texas, and I got to be honest with you, when you go back and you watch the tape, are you impressed? Not really. Even though this guy won the Heisman, I was watching it and I was kind of going, you know, a lot of these yards that he's picking up are really not because of some Brett Favre, Joe Montana type of talent. Is he talented? Yes. Is he some unbelievable phenom that we'll never see again? No. Not in actuality. Now, does he put up 4,000 yards passing? Yeah, sure he does. Does he have all these wonderful touchdowns? Sure he does. But if you go back and you actually watch the tape, does he hit some long balls? Here and there. But most of the time what's actually happening is his receivers are off screen passes, slant passes, and some of these little quick across the middle passes. The guys are breaking tackles from sloppy tackling and running 10, 15, 20 yards. And sometimes running all the way to the end zone. So what you're really seeing is a culmination of a quarterback and receivers that can catch a little bit and people that can't tackle worth a damn. These guys just can't tackle at all. So TCU, their championship game was really just an episode of them shooting themselves in the foot. That game was closer than it looked on paper, and TCU had an opportunity to win that game, and they lost it themselves. Did Oklahoma beat them? Of course they beat them. But was it a blowout talent-wise versus was it a blowout from just self-inflicted injury? And it was, to me, mostly self-inflicted injury. Congrats to Oklahoma for winning it. Can't take that away from you guys. Can't take away the fact that you have a Heisman Trophy winner. However, I think a lot of it really has to do with, you know, what is your receivers doing? Now, I wanted to talk about the fact that looking at the TCU Oklahoma Sooners championship game, I was, as I'm sure many of the fans were, I was under the impression that a championship game, especially with the Oklahoma Sooners type fan base, would have been just packed from start to finish with fans. No, the stadium was only like 64% capacity. People don't care about the Big 12 championship. So what that means is that people understand that football is just not that great. If it was, your fans would be there. Fans from both teams would be there. And you might, it wasn't really that far from you guys' home territory, so I don't understand why that y'all couldn't get that figured out. Versus the Georgia games, and I'll just talk about the SEC championship game. That place was sold out. It was standing room only, and it's that way at pretty much every Georgia game I've ever seen. Pretty much every Auburn game I've ever seen, even though I don't like Auburn. Those guys, we show up. So Oklahoma, if you guys can't show up to your own Big 12 championship game, that's not that far from you, how is your fan base going to travel to California? I don't know that you will. And I'm going to be honest with you, the Dogs travel well. No matter where we go, we don't care if it's Hawaii, we don't care if it's Maine, we don't care if it's Notre Dame, we don't care if it's somewhere out in Missouri, we don't care. Hawaii, we go. Arizona, we go. And we do very well on the road, gentlemen, so tighten up that chin strap. Now, I do want to get into some of the numbers a little bit. Kind of give you guys an opinion, give you guys an idea of where I'm getting my opinion from. Talking about the let's just I'm going to start out, I'm going to talk about the offense a little bit, and I'm going to talk about the defense. So the offense for Oklahoma. Oklahoma puts up some big yards. There's no doubt about it. Pass-happy league that doesn't care about defense doesn't work very well when they play SEC games or play SEC opponents in bowl games. They are 6-7-1. 6 wins, 7 losses, and 1 tie. So that's not even a winning percentage. Georgia has never played Oklahoma, so for some crazy fan was talking smack about how Oklahoma was 5-2 against Georgia. I don't know where he looked that stat up, but it must have been in golf or water polo or something, because that doesn't exist, sir. So please keep the stupidity to yourself. And as one of my one of the guys that I watch on YouTube likes to say, you're either ignorant or being willfully stupid. Either way, I don't have time to deal with you, sir. You're not worth my time. Offense does a great job throwing the ball around. Rushing game, believe it or not, according to the stats, the rush game's not terrible. It's actually pretty decent. But again, that's against opponents that can't tackle, don't know how to tackle, don't really care about defense. You don't see great SEC defensive coordinators out in the Big 12. They just don't believe in it. So, whatever. Let's talk about what I would consider your most embarrassing win. Not going to talk about your embarrassing loss to Iowa State. Everybody knows that was horrible. Iowa State is so bad. Iowa State is so bad that one loss that they gave Ohio State is what let you guys get in. So that should tell you how bad that is. But that is what it is. I ain't even getting into that. Let's talk about probably the worst team in college football right now, in my opinion, and that's Baylor. Baylor's a 1-11. 1-11. They beat KU, I think, was the only game they won. Everything else, it was just a row of L's on their schedule. It looked like, it was, Tennessee has a better record. What does that tell you? These guys, you beat them by 8 points. 8. Woo, dang. They don't have a defense. Their schedule proves it. They don't have any kind of defense. And from watching the game, neither do y'all. Baylor put up 523 yards of offense. Sorry, scratch that. They put up 523 yards in passing on y'all. Baylor, 523 yards in passing. That was more than like you could take a couple of 2 or 3 of their other games and put them together, and it still ain't 523 yards, but they did it against y'all. And they had the ball. That's with passing, which means they're moving down the field. And they still had the ball for 31 minutes. 31 minutes. More than half the game. So don't sit there and tell me about how good your defense is and how y'all gonna stop Georgia's run game. Y'all couldn't stop Baylor through the air. And I can promise you, Jake Fromm is a much better quarterback than what y'all saw at Baylor. Oh my goodness. Oh, in the Texas game, let's talk about the miracle in Texas that y'all barely survived. Y'all lost, or excuse me, Texas lost by only 5 points. Texas is an okay team, but not great. They don't have some crazy outstanding defense. Did they take a couple of teams to the wire? Yeah, they did. But you start looking at all the other stuff, they just couldn't get it together. So you won by 5 points there. Now, one of the things I want to point out is that most of this season, in order for you guys to get your win, especially in the games that have been close, you guys have maintained possession of the ball for a long period of time. Guess what happens when you play Georgia? You don't maintain possession of that ball that long. Georgia will grind that clock out on our side of the fence, and there's nothing you can do about it. We're not going to give you the ball. When we get the ball, we're just going to do slow, methodical drives. We don't have to rip you up one side and down the other and play this crazy, fast-paced, gunslinging mentality that y'all think y'all are good at. We don't have to. We're not only going to set the pace, We gonna run it. We gonna keep it. And y'all ain't gonna get the ball when you want it. Mayfield's gonna stand on the sideline and go, oh, he's gonna chew on his mouthpiece and wishing he was in the game. Sorry. Now, let's see here. We only had 3 games this year where we didn't maintain possession of the ball for more than, I think, 32 or 33 minutes. One of them was the opening game against App State. That's the opening game. Everybody's working kinks out. The other one was in the loss to Auburn. And then we turned around and beat Auburn in the SEC championship where we maintained the ball for almost 35 minutes or a little bit more. So to me, when I see those two stats culminate against each other, that's a defensive stat. That's can we keep the other team off the field? And that tells me that Georgia's going to dominate that. So let's look at the rush yards against the rush yards that were put on y'all against Oklahoma. West Virginia U. West Virginia U does not have a run game. They don't. They put 251 yards on y'all. Tulane put 237. Tulane. They suck. And they're putting 200 plus, almost 250 yards on y'all. Let's see here. KU, which is almost as bad as Baylor, which y'all beat the brakes off of. But KU possessed the ball for 27 minutes. These are teams with bad offenses and bad defenses, and y'all are still splitting time of possession. Almost evenly in some cases. Most of the time, you got 32, 33, maybe 34 minutes with the ball, but the other team has it for an awful long time. Oklahoma State put 661 yards of total offense on you. Now, granted, OSU is a pretty good team. They had 213 yards in rushing, so that means they put over 450 yards, almost 450 yards through the air. What does that mean? That means that, can Georgia run the ball? Yes. But if we need to gunsling it and we need to get out there and go punch you in the mouth and get points back, we're going to be able to do it because you guys can't stop the run, and you certainly can't stop it through the air. And most of these are off big plays. I mean, these guys are just slinging the ball down the field. Your receivers, your cornerbacks and your safeties, they can't intercept the ball at all. So, whatever. TTU, Texas Tech University, 400 plus yards in total offense. 268, and KSU, Kansas State University, Wildcats or Cougars or whatever they are, they had over 400 yards total offense, and 260 of that was in rushing. I mean, that's why I had to write some of this stuff down. There's so many. There's not like one little fact that you can point out. Here's the loophole in the system, or here's where we could potentially exploit Oklahoma. No, there's so many. I had to write them down. It's terrible, or is it? So, if you go back and look at the overall, kind of compare everything to the record, what do you want to call it? The book of work or whatever you want to call it. So look at the entire schedule. Look at the games you won versus the game you lost. Georgia's beat every single team that they've played. We've beat every team you've played. You guys lost to a terrible Iowa State team. Now let's talk about expansion and gaps as far as the score goes. Well, you see this big gunslinging offense that Oklahoma claims to have. There was, I want to say 4 or 5 games where it was decided by less than 8 points. What? Some high-powered offense, no defense at all, because they're on your doorstep. The reason you're having to have this kind of offense is because the other team's kicking your defense around the field like an old freaking Coke can. And then there's nothing you're doing about it. It's like you don't even care. You just think you're going to win just because, whatever. When you play a team with a good defense like Georgia, you are going to get shut down. But Baker Mayfield, while he may be a gunslinger, any semblance of pressure on him makes him fall apart. We'll get into that in a second. So, Georgia has only had one game, maybe 2. I think it's one. One game where it was decided by 13 points or less. And that was against Notre Dame. And Notre Dame was a ranked team. We've had 10 games this year. That's this many and this many for you Oklahoma fans. This many, 10, that were decided by 21 points or more. Blowouts. Blowouts. We shut defenses down. You're not going to hang on to that ball. You're not going to keep your offense on the field. You're going to sit over there and wonder what in the world happened to you. And I'm going to tell you what happened to you. Them dogs happened to you. Now, Oklahoma's had 5 games where there was 20 more, they only scored 5 games where they had 21 or more points than their opponent. Even though sometimes they're putting up 60-something points, only 5 of their games. That's half of what UGA does. Half. All you Sooner fans that were jumping down in the comment section on one of my other videos talking about, oh, you don't have an elite defense. You don't have this, you don't have that. Listen. Whenever you have a team that's knocked off the 2 number 1 ranked teams back to back, and you play it again and you hold them to 7 points, that's an elite defense. When you're shutting out SEC teams 41-0, that's an elite defense. When you're blowing out SEC teams, that's an elite defense. Offense is good, but you don't blow teams out without defense. So Baker Mayfield just won the Heisman. Congrats. Because when Georgia goes on to play for the national championship, and I don't know if it'll be Alabama or Clemson, we'll see. Both of those guys have proved that they like to fist fight with each other on the football field to who's going to come out the winner. So we'll see who that is. But whoever it is, we'll play them. But I'm going to tell you right now, Oklahoma has no business, none, in the top 4. They don't. The stats prove it. Oh, he won a Heisman. Listen, that don't mean that much. There's been plenty of Heisman Trophy candidates, plenty of Heisman winners that have went on, and that the same year that they won the Heisman didn't even play for the national championship. So I'm not worried about it. So now here's the other thing I want to point out. Baker Mayfield has been sacked, that I can find the stats, 21 times this year. 21. Against teams with terrible defenses. 21 times. That's almost 2 a game. Against terrible defenses. That means Georgia's going to be in your face. Georgia's getting sacks against SEC defenses. We got sacks against Auburn. We got sacks against everybody we played this year. Started out a little slow at the beginning of the season. But, oh, man, I keep mentioning that Heisman Trophy winner you guys have. I don't know if y'all know this or not, but Roquan Smith, you may have heard of this guy. Roquan Smith won the Butkus Award. I know you guys don't know what that is in Oklahoma, because that's a defensive award. Goes to the top defensive player in the nation. In the nation in college football. But we don't have an elite defense. What? Here's an interesting stat for you. Roquan Smith against the run is 70 for 70. Now, what does that mean? Well, if you run the ball at Roquan Smith, he's going to tackle you. He's 70 for 7 with 0 broken tackles. 0. Didn't break 1. So we know you ain't going to run the ball. Now, Georgia's been playing kind of man-to-man, some area coverage, but mostly man-to-man. Now, when you play that against Georgia and Georgia shuts you down, you're either going to have to run it or you're going to have to punt it. Well, we know you can't run it, so you're going to have to punt it. Well, big dog, what makes you think that we're not going to be able to pass the ball? Well, let me see. You might be able to pass the ball here and there. People say y'all gonna get 30 points. I don't believe that. The reason I don't believe that is because I see where your yardage actually comes from. And your yardage comes from your receivers catching the ball and running up the field 10, 15, 20 yards at a time, getting these big chunks. Georgia is among the elite in college football anywhere in the nation this year in stopping that yards after catch. Georgia does excellent in open field tackling, one-on-one, man-to-man. You put a ball in a guy's hands, and we're going to shut him down. We got Baker back there. We got Bellamy back there. We got Roquan Smith back there. And we got a defensive line that's going to push your offensive line around. In most of the games, I heard how much time Baker Mayfield had in the backfield. Oh, he's got all day back there. Oh, he's got plenty of time. Oh, he's looking. Listen, when you play an SEC defense, you ain't going to have that much time, Captain. It ain't going to happen. So you're going to have to get rid of it quick. And that means no really long passes downfield. So you got to go to these quick little screens, these quick little slant passes, quick little over the middle. Please throw that ball over the middle. I'll get to that in a second. When you throw that ball to the corner or to a screen, like Auburn does, like Missouri does, and granted, you might want to argue that their teams are better, whatever. I can promise you that Georgia's going to tackle them. They're not going to be getting these big yards. They think the chains are not going to move. This is going to be a blowout game. Now, if you throw that ball across the middle, please do that. Please do that. Roquan Smith has sideline to sideline speed. He watches the quarterback. He spies the quarterback the whole game. And if you think for 1 second that your quarterback is going to scramble and pick up yards, you're crazy. Ain't going to happen. Well, video's getting kind of long, but like I said, there's so much information. I wanted to kind of give you guys some of the points of view and the stats. You know, if you made it this far, you know, hit the like and subscribe button. I got no problems telling you I think this is going to be a blowout. I think Georgia's going to win this game 35-17, 35-18, maybe 20. But I don't foresee Oklahoma getting over 30 points. I do not. So I'm going to say 20. I'm going to say Georgia 40. I'll say Georgia 35, 38, 35. We'll go 35. Georgia 35, Oklahoma 17. That's what I'm going to go with. That's what I'm going to go with. Anyway, don't forget to like and subscribe down in the comment section. You can share it. Feel free to share it. And trash talk down in the comment section. I'll come down here and trash talk with you. I don't care if you're an Auburn fan, Alabama fan, Tennessee fan, fan of no man. It doesn't matter to me. Leave a comment down in the comment section. I look forward to hearing from you. Thanks for your time and have a good day. Go Dogs.